So we're going to continue our Explore geography learning on what makes a home. Remember, that's our big question, and our 4 concepts. So let's recap. Loyalty means to stay faithful. Adversity, to find something difficult. Belonging, a sense of fitting in. And love, an intense feeling of liking something or someone. Let's recap our learning so far. The 7 continents, if you can say them with me: North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, Antarctica. Now our 5 oceans: Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, Southern, Arctic. Now, places in the Arctic Circle that we are particularly learning about in year 2 this term: Alaska, Canada, Greenland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Russia. Then we learned about the climate of the Arctic. And the Arctic climate is known as the tundra. Tundra. This means it is the coldest climate in the world. It is a dry place with not much water. The ground is permanently frozen. The land can't support many plants or animal life. Last week we looked at the physical features. Can you name the physical feature that Miss Drayton is being? Ocean. Lake. Hill. River. There's a clue. Coastline or cliff. Mountain. Iceberg. Sea ice. So today we'll be finding out about something called global warming, and we'll be learning about a lady, an Earth hero, someone who cares and campaigns deeply for the Arctic in particular, but for the Earth as a whole, a lady called Sheila Watt Cloutier. Sheila Watt Cloutier. So what is global warming? 2 words there that really matter: global and warming. We will also hear the word climate change today. Climate change. So if you remember, the climate of the Arctic is that tundra. The tundra, the coldest place in the world. Climate change means the tundra, the Arctic, along with a lot of other places in the world, is changing. And scientists don't think this change, and hopefully you will agree, these changes are not good. They need to be slowed down and stopped. So, global, for global warming. Global means about the whole world. Warming means getting hotter. So global warming is about the world getting hotter. But what does this really mean? So we learned that temperature, when we did temperature work in our maths work, is measured in something called degrees. Scientists who measure the temperature of the Earth are saying it has already gone up by 1 degree, so got hotter by 1 degree since they started doing the measuring, which doesn't sound like very much, does it? But 1 degree is causing big changes in our world. Scientists think the main cause is something called greenhouse gases. So just like a blanket keeps you warm, or maybe you have a duvet, the greenhouse gases keep heat in. And this will become clear in a couple of videos I'm going to show you today. So greenhouse gases are naturally in the atmosphere above our planet, above our Earth. We need them for us to be a comfortable warmth and alive on our planet. However, humans have been doing things that cause more greenhouse gases. So if there are more, global warming happens. Global warming caused lots of serious problems around the world. The polar regions, so like where we're learning about, the North Pole, the polar pole, North Pole is the Arctic, and the South Pole in Antarctica have lots of ice. But if the world is warming, the ice in these places melts. So polar animals and plants won't have anywhere to live, and the sea levels, so the water levels, rise across the world, which causes other problems in other places around the world, like floods, droughts in some places, so where actually there's a lack of water, tornadoes, so the weather, and hurricanes changes. So because of global warming, there is less ice in the Arctic and Antarctica, but there are more floods, droughts, tornadoes, and hurricanes. So, what a couple of videos. They do a little bit repeat themselves, but I thought it was good to show you them both.
Human activities, from pollution to overpopulation, are driving up the Earth's temperature and fundamentally changing the world around us. The main cause is a phenomenon known as the greenhouse effect. Gases in the atmosphere, such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons, let the sun's light in, but keep some of the heat from escaping, like the glass walls of a greenhouse. The more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the more heat gets trapped, strengthening the greenhouse effect and increasing the Earth's temperature. Human activities, like the burning of fossil fuels, have increased the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere by more than a third since the Industrial Revolution. The rapid increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has warmed the planet at an alarming rate. While Earth's climate has fluctuated in the past, atmospheric carbon dioxide hasn't reached today's levels in hundreds of thousands of years. Climate change has consequences for our oceans, our weather, our food sources, and our health. Ice sheets, such as Greenland and Antarctica, are melting. The extra water that was once held in glaciers causes sea levels to rise and spills out of the oceans, flooding coastal regions. Warmer temperatures also make weather more extreme. This means not only more intense major storms, floods, and heavy snowfall, but also longer and more frequent droughts. These changes in weather pose challenges. Growing crops becomes more difficult. The areas where plants and animals can live shift, and water supplies are diminished. In addition to creating new agricultural challenges, climate change can directly affect people's physical health. In urban areas, the warmer atmosphere creates an environment that traps and increases the amount of smog. This is because smog contains ozone particles, which increase rapidly at higher temperatures. Exposure to higher levels of smog can cause health problems such as asthma, heart disease, and lung cancer. While the rapid rate of climate change is caused by humans, Humans are also the ones who can combat it. If we work to replace fossil fuels with renewable energy sources like solar and wind, which don't produce greenhouse gas emissions, we might still be able to prevent some of the worst effects of climate change.
So this video says some similar things, but also some slightly different things.
For 2.5 million years, the Earth's climate has fluctuated, cycling from ice ages to warmer periods. But in the last century, the planet's temperature has risen unusually fast, about 1.2 to 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Scientists believe it's human activity that's driving the temperatures up, a process known as global warming. Ever since the Industrial Revolution began, factories, power plants, and eventually cars have burned fossil fuels such as oil and coal, releasing huge amounts of carbon dioxide and other gases into the atmosphere. These greenhouse gases trap heat near the Earth through a naturally occurring process called the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect begins with the sun and the energy it radiates to the Earth. The Earth and the atmosphere absorb some of this energy, while the rest is radiated back into space. Naturally occurring gases in the atmosphere trap some of this energy and reflect it back, warming the Earth. Scientists now believe that the greenhouse effect is being intensified by the extra greenhouse gases that humans have released. Evidence for global warming includes a recent string of very warm years. Scientists report that 1998 was the warmest year in measured history, with 2005 coming in second. Meanwhile, readings taken from ice cores show that the greenhouse gases carbon dioxide and methane have hit their highest levels in the past 420,000 years. Arctic sea ice is also shrinking. According to NASA studies, the extent of Arctic sea ice has declined about 10% in the last 30 years. As long as industrialized nations consume energy and developing countries increase their fossil fuel consumption, the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere will continue to rise. Researchers predict that temperatures will increase about 2 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of the century. What's less certain is what rising temperatures mean for the planet. Some climate models predict subtle changes. Others forecast rising sea levels which could flood coastal areas around the world. Weather patterns could change, making hurricanes more frequent. Severe droughts could become more common in warm areas, and species unable to adapt to the changing conditions would face extinction. Although much remains to be learned about global warming, many organizations advocate cutting greenhouse gas emissions to reduce the impact of global warming. Consumers can help by saving energy around the house, switching to compact fluorescent light bulbs, and driving fewer miles in the car each week. These simple changes may help keep the Earth cooler in the future.
Clean air has never been more important.
So some of that you may not quite have understood. Do not worry. A lot of it has lots of sciencey terms in it that you'll perhaps understand a bit more when you're a little bit older. But I hope you got the main idea is that the world is heating up, and a lot of it is to do with, scientists believe, humans and some of the things we do. So we're going to learn now a little bit about this lady Sheila, Walt Cloutier, and then a little bit more about what it is we can do to slow down and hopefully stop those changes from happening. So Sheila Walt Cloutier. She is an Inuit lady, just like the artist Kinojuak Ashavak that we've been learning about, and the other stories that we've done in our English learning. So the polar bear son was an Inuit tale. So she is someone who lives and is from the Arctic. She's written a book you can see on the right hand side, and her book is called The Right to Be Cold. So if you think about when we did our jigsaw work on your rights at school, you had a right or have a right to learn, a right to be happy, and a right to be safe. The things you deserve as someone who comes to St. George's School. So she says she has a right to be cold. So her home is the Arctic. And at the top of this screen, you can see this is a quote, something she said and written in her book. The Arctic is a home, not just a wilderness. So it's not just large expanses of ice, although it is that, or large big bits of snow, or places just for animals. It is also a home for animals, a home for plants, and a home for people. So they deserve for their home to stay as they would wish it to be, as it has been for thousands of years, and not changed because of what us other humans do where we live. In 2005, so 16 years ago now, along with 62 Inuit hunters and elders from across Alaska and Canada, she launched the world's first international legal action on climate change. That means she launched action, people agreeing and choosing to campaign to stop climate change. In 2007, so 2 years later, she was nominated for a very special prize, something called the Nobel Peace Prize, because of all the wonderful things and campaigning and how hard she campaigned, so spoke about and fought for her home and saving and protecting the Arctic. So let's recap. The Arctic is slowly disappearing because it is melting. There are other effects of global warming, but we're learning about the Arctic, so that is the focus we're going to have. The animals, plants, and people of the Arctic are losing their home. It is because we, you and me and your family and my family and our friends and people we know, are making too much pollution. Bad gases are getting trapped in our atmosphere, so trapped just above our planet, and they are warming the planet up more than it should be. What can we do to help? So we can reduce, reuse, and recycle things. So reduce our waste, reuse things, and recycle things. Make sure when we are not using electrical things, we switch them off. Because electricity comes from power plants, and the power plants will release those gases into the air, into our atmosphere. Whereas if we switch off and don't use electricity when we don't need it, those power plants don't need to be releasing as much of their energy used as gas into the atmosphere. So instead of using cars, we can walk or cycle. Instead of using a bus, if possible, walk or cycle places. Because walking and cycling releases no toxic gases. We can plant more trees. We can use less water. So make sure, for example, when you brush your teeth, don't let the tap keep running while you're brushing your teeth. Only have it on when you actually need the water. Use solar and wind energy. So instead of using electricity or coal, we can actually get energy to make our lights work or even our cars work from energy from the sun or from the wind. We don't have this across all our planets in all our countries yet. It's only in some places, and even in our country only in some places. But we are hopefully working towards more of our energy being made from solar, the sun, and wind. We must protect and save the Arctic. So your task today is to make a Save the Arctic poster or speech. So here are a few ideas if you want to do a poster. So you'd need to start with a plain white piece of paper, or you could use one of the plain white pages in your Explore book. And you can draw pictures of places or in the Arctic, animals in the Arctic, and put Save the Arctic. Or you might want to do a poster that has about what we can do to make it better. So recycling, switching off lights, or a bit of both. Or you might want to explain what's happening. So about global warming and then what we could do. Okay, you can choose. Or you could write a speech. So explain what is happening. Explain maybe a little bit why it's happening. So about those gases and the world heating up. And then explain what we can do. You, of course, can do both if you want to as well. But I would like you to do either a Save the Arctic poster or a Save the Arctic speech. So, recap, your speech or poster should include what is happening. So what is global warming or climate change? Why is it happening? And what can we do to help? I look forward to seeing them. If you're going to do a speech, please record it or photograph your posters and then add them to Seesaw. Remember, you can always do some extra exploring if you go on to Edezi.